This broadcast is brought to you by Colby Brooks with Century 21 Right Pace Real Estate and buyfrombrooks.com. Let Colby Brooks handle all of your real estate needs. Coming up next on NEA Report, it's breaking news, and we've just learned that it wasn't the first time that the Egypt police chief had troubles over his GED. Not this year, but 10 years ago, in cash, he was fired over failure to provide a valid GED. And it wasn't the only time he was fired either. We're going to tell you about both times we've discovered coming up next, and more, a lot more, as NEA Report starts right now.
Now, Stan Morris reporting.
Thanks for joining us tonight on NEA Report. This is Stan Morris, a couple of minutes before 9 o'clock as we're going live on Facebook and YouTube, and we appreciate everybody that's joining us live as well. So we're going to break some news right now that hasn't been broken yet in this case, and we're going to be talking specifically about the Egypt police chief case. As you may know, if you follow the case in the either NEA Report, the newspaper, or the television station, both covering it, and we're going to be covering some more stuff now that you're probably going to hear more about in the next few days. So, the document on the screen was obtained through Freedom of Information Act request, and I'm going to do a little zoom in to show you what it says if you're having trouble seeing. Of course, if you're watching on HD or something like that, you could probably already tell what we're talking about. 10 years ago, the Cache Police Department fired Gerald Goza for failure to provide a valid GED. The date of dismissal, you see on the X there, it's not a resignation, because that's what it would be if the top box was checked. It's dismissed. Reason, failure to provide valid GED. Suggesting perhaps an invalid one had been provided, sort of like Cache Police Department, or sort of like Egypt Police Department would experience 10 years later. But it was on March 19th, 2010, that the Cache Police Department fired Gerald Goza over failure to provide a valid GED. And what's going to surprise you is that this is not the only time the Cache Police Department employed him. He was rehired later, but we'll get to that in a second. First, I want to get to the next city that I could find in his personnel file, the city of Alicia, where he was hired, and on the 10th month of 2012, the 15th day, we're talking about October 15th, he was terminated there as well. Only this time, it came with a recommendation for decertification from him being a law enforcement officer again in the future. This was 2012 when this happened. Take a closer look. You see how that it was circled there in the highlighter, so it make it a little easier for you. Dismissed. Reason, two different things: complaints and using car inappropriately. A bit of irony considering what we're hearing is being looked into now by the Craighead County Sheriff's Department. More on that in a minute as well, because we've received some new evidence that he has been acting as a police officer since we were told he wasn't supposed to be. Again, hang on that. We're coming up on that. First, though, using a car inappropriately and complaints. And by the city of Alicia's mayor, which is signed there, you can see Mayor of Alicia at the bottom, it was recommended that he be decertified as a police officer. But after this, he was rehired at Cache, at least twice, but that was at a part-time capacity. He ended up resigning both of those times. The question remains, how did he get back at the same department? Well, a new police chief operated there. Previously, it was one person. It had changed, and I don't have the new person's name directly in front of me. Actually, I probably do, but I'm worried I'm not going to be able to read it right. I believe it's Mr. Slagley. And the first one was Police Chief Perrin back in 2010. Mark Perrin, for those wondering. Now, he's gone back to those departments several times, yet we know from Kless's letter that was issued earlier this year that he has not ever obtained a diploma or GED, meaning each of those times he went back and applied and provided the same, we're assuming, documents that he tried to pass off to Kless and to Egypt, and perhaps to Cache the first time around. And that's important to note because we're hearing from investigators at the Craighead County Sheriff's Department, the sheriff specifically, that it was over intent to defraud. There was no intent to defraud found in the Egypt case. But it begs the question of if he did this before, and he knew that that GED was not accepted and lost his job for this before, how could he have not known 10 years later that he was defrauding another police department? It has to be asked. Now, we're going to get to another portion. I told you I was going to tell you we received some new information, and these photos, they're not new. We showed you them already. This was taken last week, last Wednesday. That Dodge truck you can see on the left, the police car on the right. It's tough to see police on it in the other photo, but you can see it there. Those both belong to the city of Cache. I'm told both belong to the police department. Well, that was taken on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, we know that the police car, at least, was back in front of the Cache City Hall. The Dodge truck, I'm told, is not, and I'm told it is still at the residence that we just showed you, that residence being Gerald Goza. He's still in possession of a city vehicle of some sort, so he's still functioning on behalf of the city in some form. At least it would appear that way, and one would assume the mayor knows about this as well. But he was supposed to stop his law enforcement activities and did, according to the mayor, on January 7th, which was when CLES notified him that he was no longer certified. Well, new tonight, I've spoken to someone that specifically says they witnessed him on January 25th driving from Egypt into Cache in that police cruiser that you're seeing right there. We'll show you another photo of it, the one that's at his home. He was witnessed in that police cruiser, according to my source, on January 25th, running his police lights into Cache. This is not just any source that I spoke to. They did ask me to keep their name out of this report, and I'm going to. But what makes this unique is the source is a relative of Gerald Goza, somebody very close to him that contacted us and wanted us to know that so far our reporting had been on the nose about the situation. And they said on the 25th, almost 20 days after, we were told he was no longer supposed to be a cop, he was still acting as a police officer or running his lights, which is enough to get a normal citizen arrested for impersonating a police officer. As far as Mr. Goza goes, we shall see what the Craighead County Sheriff's Department comes up with in their investigation. We're still following the case. We did find out last week, at the end of the week, for a live stream exclusive for our supporters, we found out that neither sheriff nor the prosecutor ever received the letter from CLES stating that he had been decertified. In their words, both of them, they had no idea, and once they received that letter, it changed everything. However, they were in possession of these investigative files at least since January 7th. And I believe since it would have been December 18th. It was the day after the FOIA lawsuit was settled with the city of Egypt at the end of last year. So we will see if this information changes the investigation or if the outcome remains the same. Nobody can predict the future, but that is, of course, what we're looking ahead to for the next few stories, at least. But we'll continue our coverage on this. We're still going through information that we're getting that's been sent. And so we're still trying to, as always, find new leads and new information. If you have any, you can always send it to us. news@neareport.com. It goes directly to my inbox, and only one person will ever see that email, and that's me. We've made sure of that, so you can feel comfortable being anonymous if you want to be. Of course, I have to know who you are if we're going to make you anonymous, because I have to vet your credibility. That's part of reporting, i.e. the anonymous phone calls in the middle of the night don't work. Sorry. Let's take a look at chat and just see. Peggy asked, why does he still have vehicles? A fair question for the mayor. Amy asked, what is the salary for the police chief in these small towns? Another fair question, but it's not as much as it would be on even this close scale of Jonesboro. You're probably going to find it to be somewhere between 20 and 30. And so Daniel says that's Egypt, not Cache. Yeah, I probably mistakenly said Cache City Hall, didn't I? Yeah, Egypt City Hall. Forgive me if I said that. I'm dealing with 3 different towns here, and I'm trying to juggle that. But yeah, a photo there of the Egypt City Hall where the police car is back in front of course, and that was at his home the day before. We're told still at his home is the Dodge that also belongs to the city of Egypt. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on NEA Report. We appreciate it. We do exclusive live streams for supporters, 99 cents if you want to join up and help us to continue doing this news thing. It means a whole lot to us. We do appreciate our supporters. We'll also be back with more news from Northeast Arkansas as it breaks out. Be sure to follow us and have live video notifications turned on. That way you know whenever we go live and you can be a part of the dialogue. You can ask us questions or hopefully we can talk to you a little bit and see what's going on. Thanks again for joining us. Stan Morris reporting. And now you're up to date from NEA Report. Before we leave our live stream, a couple of, some of our tunes, I guess, as we take a look at our political advertisers. We appreciate them for making this possible as well.